Hello, my name is Darius.
And my name is Tom.
And welcome to Campus TV's coverage of the SU officer elections. Questions to candidates.
Today we'll be meeting the candidates for the new position of postgraduate officer. The postgraduate candidates are Adam Kearns, Meenakshi Shabra and Bharat Bajaj.
So we have got a few minutes before we go to the actual hustings debates themselves, so let's just give a quick rundown. There are a few things in their manifestos that are quite similar, namely allocation of space, study space, living and eating space for postgraduates, the recording of lectures through Panopto, but then we get to some slightly more ambitious plans that appear on the different candidates' manifestos. Firstly, Meenakshi's chosen to focus on postgraduate integration with the SU's top 10 issues and with isolation and disengagement with the rest of the university, whereas Bharat's chosen to dwell a bit more on supervision for postgraduate research students, or PGRs, and support and teaching training for postgraduate teaching students. Perhaps his most ambitious idea is the idea of a postgraduate specific website. It'll be interesting to see if he talks a bit more about that in today's debate. Moving on, of course, to Adam Kearns as well, who's chosen to, in his manifesto, to talk a bit more about sports provision for postgraduates, including scheduling, timetabling, and possible future competitions for postgraduates. Perhaps the most ambitious idea on his manifesto is widening summer internship opportunities for postgraduate students, because of course this is often a time of year where students will be working on their dissertations. It'll be interesting whether we get to see Adam address this idea later on in the debate.
Also, we have heard that Bharat is, although Meenakshi is talking about isolation in a very major way, Bharat also makes some references to wanting to improve participation in societies and so on, but that doesn't seem to be his main point. In a similar way, Adam has been talking about trying to improve sort of study spaces and the such like in a fairly major way, which all of the candidates seem to be doing.
In all fairness, space is the common issue which comes up in all candidates' manifestos, and that's not just postgraduate officers. It seems we just can't get enough of space, can we? Ever. And it's worth mentioning, of course, Bharat and Adam have chosen to mention their respective backgrounds. So Bharat has worked with PGA campaigns. He's also involved in sports society, a dance society, and some volunteering work, whereas Adam is an academic rep, and he's also on the Careers Service Student Advisory Board. I've got to say, I am very fascinated by today, of course, because this is a new position, postgraduate officer. This is entirely new. We did not have this in the previous years, and it's fair to say in previous years, postgraduate engagement with the elections has been rather low. Last year it was reported that only 4.1% of postgraduates at this university actually voted. 4.1% of postgraduates.
Oh wow, okay. It's quite interesting because Bharat seems to have mentioned this, and he's wondering how the position will change in his manifesto.
Well, we'll go to the hustings debates now.
Hello. Is this on? You're looking for? What great quality we've got. Good evening.
Good evening.
PG. Thank you. In case anyone was wondering, this is the questions to candidates for our 3 people standing for postgraduate officer. We are being live streamed into the Student Centre. If anyone would like to tweet in their questions to candidates. The handle is BathSULX. If anyone in the room would also like to send a question forward, please write it on a piece of paper and hand it to the beautiful Wadzi, who will hand it over to us, and we will try and read out as many questions sent in to us as possible over the course of the next 20 minutes to half an hour or so. Before I invite the candidates to give an opening statement, I'll just remind everyone watching this, listening to this, and here in the room that there are also questions to candidates taking place tomorrow at 12:15 and 1:15 for the remaining positions, activities and education, as well as 2 more goes round with our wonderful presidential candidates. So, I'll give each of you 1 minute to give an opening statement. Should we go from my left to right, beginning with Adam?
Hello. Is that working? Okay, hello. I'm Adam. I'm standing for postgraduate officer, obviously. I came to Bath in September to start a course in international public policy analysis and have absolutely loved my time here so far. So I really want to continue to stay at Bath for the following year and improve the postgraduate provision from the perspective that I've been able to see. I think the postgraduate courses here at Bath are absolutely fantastic. However, there's a lot more that can be done. Certainly having a postgraduate officer will bring a lot more representation to the postgraduate community, which is some 5,000 strong. And so I think that I'm a capable person of fulfilling that position. I've got plenty of experience of working in sort of political environments where you have to deal with various actors and competing opinions. I've got lots of experience in working within student committees from my past university, and so I think it would be fantastic if everybody has concerns, they should vote for Kearns.
Hi guys, my name is Meenakshi Chabra. I study MSc International Management here at University of Bath, and I am standing this year to be a first postgraduate officer. I have been an international student for the last 4 years. I did my undergrad in the UK. I understand the kind of concerns international students face, postgraduate students face. I am the academic rep for my course, and I have been involved with the School of Management to convey their concerns to the School of Management to make sure that they have a better experience in their education. Please make your vote count. Look at all candidates' manifestos. See if you can decide. If you have any questions, contact candidates. I'm pretty sure we'd all be very happy to talk to you. And please make your vote count. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bharat Bajaj. I'm studying to be a first postgraduate officer. I'm currently the PGA campaigns rep and also the faculty rep for the School of Management. I'm currently studying MSc in Management in here at Bath, and I'm a very enthusiastic and an approachable person. The 4 key issues that I really want to work on are boosting supervision, boosting signposting for supervision for PGR students. Secondly, support and teaching that's available for postgrads who actually teach. Thirdly, I want to provide a better route for reporting problems that are associated with the PGT courses. And fourthly, definitely boosting pragmatic opportunities for networking and social interactions, and definitely eradicating the isolation. Thank you. Please vote for Bharat.
Thank you very much. As you have said, this is the first time we've had a postgraduate officer here at Bath. I would just be interested to know your take on this question. Given that in all of your manifestos, most of the concerns raised would affect undergraduate students as well, do we really need a dedicated postgraduate officer?
Yeah, so we definitely need a specific postgraduate officer, because since the university is ranking very highly when it comes to student satisfaction for undergraduates, but when we come down to postgraduates, we are doing very poorly in that. So having a postgraduate officer, he'll be able to specifically nichely focus on the concerns and increasing the students' experience for postgraduate students. He would have a better viewpoint as well, because he had an experience of being a postgrad himself. So I would definitely say yes, it's one thing that the university definitely needs, and the undergraduates needs to be concerned about this, needs to be involved with the postgraduate officer, because the university ranks actually go up when the postgraduate student experience rises. So I'd say yeah.
I would say that to have a postgraduate officer, since that we have been here, we're going to be here for a very limited time, and it's just a year. Even if we do bring about a few changes, whoever gets elected, it's not going to be for the people studying right now. It's not going to be for my cohort. It's not going to be for his cohort. It's not going to be for his cohort. So whatever we do does affect the people who do stay here. And since undergraduates are going to be here for a longer time than postgraduates, I would say this, yes, it would definitely affect them.
I would also like to point out that in the modern environment, lots of people have degrees, and so for a lot of people, going and doing a postgraduate course is extremely important. So when I've been speaking to undergraduates out campaigning, I've been trying to explain to them that actually voting for a postgraduate officer is in their interest, because there's a strong chance at some point they all want to do a postgraduate course. Here at Bath there's over 5,000 postgraduate students, and I think it's only right that they have a dedicated officer to represent them and to improve on the postgraduate courses for future students as well.
Thank you. A question about the post itself. How do you meet the challenge that research students were effectively prevented from running for this position, given the way that the research courses work opposed to talk courses work? And is that something that should and can be addressed?
Well, I think running for a postgraduate officer for any postgraduate is actually a bit of a challenge, because obviously the course is far more demanding. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and so perhaps in the future there could be ways of looking at the campaigning process for a postgraduate officer that would be slightly different, because I think we've all had to make sacrifices from our own courses here, and it isn't just a PGR specific issue. However, I think that I would also say to PGRs who feel that perhaps they don't have the representation that they should have had it in the process, that as a postgraduate officer it would be my role to represent absolutely everybody, and so the fact that I've come from a PGT background wouldn't stop me from representing PGR issues as well.
Yeah, I would definitely say, yeah, it's a very, very big challenge, because our courses are not, be it PGR or PGT, they're not the same as with most of the undergraduates. So the term for being a postgraduate officer and everything from campaigning to working for a year is very, very different, and I personally think that this needs to be rigorously worked upon for the next year. So as a postgraduate officer, whoever would be elected, it'll be a very big part of their own journey to actually shape this up, so that there's no barrier for any PGR or PGT equally, so as to from the next year to take on this post. It needs to be very much developed.
Lobby the university.
I'm just going to carry on with that, because you've raised a few issues there that I'll just pick up on. I'm just going to pick on one. Could you, since all three of you are PGTs, could you tell me some of the issues that specifically only affect postgraduate research students?
Yeah. One, the major issue that currently affects the PGR students would be lack of mentoring, which is feeding back into causing postgraduate isolation, which is feeding back into calling them not be able to do proper research, lesser student satisfaction. Also, there are issues with PGR supervision, that they are not being able to raise it up properly with the supervisors, only because the signposting is not to the point. I mean, it's not the best possible. And the third, I would say, is definitely some international students, actually all PGR students, most of them start their course at a very different time from September, so they do not have a proper induction, because of which they are not able to network with people, make more friends, and these are the three main problems that I think that affects PGRs hugely.
To add on to that, I know that the SU is currently working on the training aspect of postgraduate research students, that only 57% of the students were satisfied with the amount of training they were given to actually do their work, which is, there's a lot of room for improvement. 57% out of 100 is a very small number. That is one of the issues that I would also like to work on. Training program for them to make it longer, to make it more detailed, to make it student specific, rather than having a whole cohort sitting there and going through the same thing, because even though they're doing different things.
And adding on to that problem, I would also say that given research students are going through a more lonely university experience, in effect, it's important to develop postgraduate sport opportunities which at the moment are not up to scratch. So for example, the postgraduate specific social sport events take place way out in Oldfield, which is a bit of a problem for people who don't live near there. Also, postgraduates have to pay the full cost for gym memberships, whereas lots of other students can buy the returners membership at a much cheaper price. And so that if I were postgraduate officer, I would also develop social and competitive sporting opportunities for postgraduates, which would allow postgraduate research students in particular to get out there and to meet new people.
I have also, just to add on to that, I've also heard that there's some funding issues related to postgraduate research students when it comes to the hours they put into and the amount of work they have to do, apart from actually being able to stand and teach. The time that goes into research, I have actually heard that this is a huge problem as well.
Great. Picking up on some of the points that have been raised more indirectly, the University and Students' Union are often criticised for essentially closing down over the summer period, and that makes it particularly difficult for postgraduate research students and also talk students who are writing their theses up over the summer. How are you effectively going to change that culture to make sure that opportunities are available for postgraduate students to engage in wider activity?
Well, the first thing we could do is actually ask the student union very nicely if they could stay open during the summer period, because we do have candidates, we do have students staying over, we have PGRs, we have PGTs, we have undergraduate students, third years, people who don't go for summer vacation to stay here. I think it would be, the best way would be to lobby the students union to actually stay open during the summer period, to actually give them reasons as to why they need to stay open.
Yeah.
I think, it's just that I think we'll have to look at the feasibility aspect, and we'll have to really work upon the numbers of people who actually stay here. That will actually help us give a certain view upon what could work better if it's being just, say, the Cleverton rooms are open for the entire period, or it would be something like for the international students who are PGT and not PGRs, organizing trips or events for them during those times so that they could enjoy it. They could literally feel that the students union is with them. That would work a long way. These small things, and like all the cafes actually are shut during those periods during the breaks. So that actually leads people to get into very isolated environment. So if we'll have to work upon at least having some social space open and running throughout the year.
Yeah, I don't think it's, ultimately if the university is going to provide courses that run over the summer, then it's important that they make sure there's the correct amount of provision for the students that are here. And as I've mentioned before, the postgraduate community is very large here at Bath. So it's only right that some of the sports facilities, some of the social facilities, and some of the learning facilities remain open over the summer period so that postgraduates can continue to effectively carry on with their course. I mean, the university is still taking fees from those students, and they're expecting them to work over the summer, and so it's only right that they would also provide for them.
Plus, I do know that if we do ever get elected, our officer period starts from June till the next June, and we have international students coming in to study English, provisional English sessions before their course actually starts. So to provide for them before university actually starts would be a really good idea for the students union to do.
Okay, we're going to have a look at some of your manifestos in a bit more depth now, and we're going to start with you, Bharat. What does increased support for postgraduates who teach mean, and what will it look like in the future if you are elected?
Well, currently there's just 1 day of proper training that has been given to students who actually teach. This actually feeds back into a huge amount of problem, because not only the postgraduate research students who teach are not confident upon and they're not happy with the amount of training that they get, but it also feeds back on the quality of education that the courses that they teach is being affected because just in case, say I have seminars that are being taught by PhD students, but not everybody is happy with those seminars. They think that the lecturer or the PhD candidate who's teaching would have done a better job. So in that case, we definitely need to look upon how could we provide better training. So there's a gap from both the ends, and there's definitely a need for improvement upon that aspect, and we need to look about how we could actually improve training support. If we need to call upon more professors to give them more inclined training for more days, maybe a week, not a day. So we need to actually think over it and also see in terms of the feedback that these seminars or these lectures are getting, and how those feedbacks could actually be improved if those training is being available for PhD students to teach.
Would either of the other two like to add to that?
Well, I certainly think that a day of training for a student who's going to be teaching is pretty ridiculous. And I also think it's important to make sure that those PhD students are cared for themselves, because I've heard of problems to do with the status of PhD students who teach, whether they're an employee or a student. And so I think that as a postgraduate officer, it's also important to make sure that those PhD students are comfortable with their status as a student.
To add to that, they should also be given time for their own research. As PhD students, they have to do research as to how they teach, as to how they mark assignments, marking exams. I don't think it gives them enough time to do their own research. To probably cut that down or give them proper training to actually do that would be a really good idea in the future.
A few issues there that have just been raised. Postgraduates who teach usually do so because they're interested in the teaching, and they usually do so also because they're interested in the money. I haven't actually heard, as a postgraduate who teaches myself, what it is you're going to do to support me better and also to support my students better, because obviously as a teacher I'm interested in their well-being as well.
Well, there could be we'll have to look into the aspect that what if the pay is being pegged to the amount, the feedback that these professors get. So it'll given the, like, if you say if the average feedback is beyond 4, you get an extra bonus for the term of teaching. This actually works out well, because this gives an incentive for those teachers to work harder on their training and development, and then they could obviously ask the university to provide them more training if they lack it. So I think this is one of the alternatives to be looked at.
Plus, more emphasis needs to be given on unit evaluations. I do know that since I'm the academic rep, it was my duty to convey to my cohort that you need to evaluate, and only 30% of my cohort did. So more emphasis needs to be paid on how you evaluate your courses, and to tell them strongly that it is anonymous, because some of us do fear the fact that it's not anonymous.
I also think the fact that there's not been a postgraduate officer here at Bath so far means that the university and the student union, to an extent, is unaware of the combined issues of the postgraduate community. And so if I were elected as postgraduate officer, then I would write up a survey that would be carried out this side of the year, so that when I started my term in June, that I would be able to assess the issues as postgraduates themselves saw them. And that survey would include both PGT, PGR and PhD students.
Thank you very much. Meenakshi, in your manifesto you talk about the need for good feedback, and I think we'd all definitely agree for that. Could you perhaps give me some examples of what you see as being good feedback and how we ensure that it is done in all departments?
Well, what I mean by good feedback is right now, I know that in my cohort that we get a line after your assessment is being marked, or just highlighted version of the the course outline. Or the main problem is that we're not given student-specific feedback. We get a generic exam feedback. We're not giving specific exam feedback, so you don't know where you lack. And since we postgraduates are only here for a year, we don't get the time to make up for whatever it is that we haven't done well. So in order to do that, we need to know where we went wrong. That I would actually talk to each and every lecturer, if I was ever elected, to raise this issue and to explain to them that this is highly important for all postgraduate students, research taught, everybody, to give them good feedback, extended, detailed feedback about their assignments, about their exams, about how they think they should do. We should have formative feedback as well, that is before the assignment, because not everybody has done their undergraduate in the UK. Most of us are international students. It gets a bit difficult to actually catch up. I do think that the managerial challenge essay was a really good idea that was introduced this year, so that people get the level of, so that people understand the kind of level that is expected from the students at this university. and provide classes for people who have not been able to pull through with that assignment.
Well, I would say, just to add on to that, I would definitely say that some of the departments in the university are currently encouraging mid-semester feedback, which actually very much helps the postgraduates, because 6 weeks into the course, with the mid-semester feedback, they could actually be, those lecturers could work upon the things that they're lacking. So it works out well. However, not every department is currently taking up mid-semester feedbacks, so this needs to be implemented at the university level. That's one way of improving feedback. The other would definitely be a more personalized feedback. However, I do understand that will be very, very costly for the university as well, because amount of the hours that each lecturer would have to put in individual papers to be giving individual feedbacks. But that needs to be looked upon further, because I personally do not know how much budget is being allocated to that.
Comments, Adam? In which case, I'll ask you a manifesto-specific question then. You talk about the possibility of introducing specific postgraduate study space. I was wondering if you could elucidate on how that would actually work in practice. And given that space is an issue for all students, would this not antagonise the undergraduate community and perhaps a more cohesive, not cohesive, that's not quite the word I mean, a non-divisive approach to a common problem?
I think there's two issues at stake when it comes to postgraduate specific study space. The first is that postgraduates are here for 1 year. They're doing an incredibly intensive course, and yet the postgraduate space provided so far in the room upstairs, the graduate centre, and the small study room next door is nowhere near enough to hold everybody. And so what if myself and my friends, when we're on campus, sort of during peak times in the middle of the day, it's very difficult to go to the library and to find a workspace. The graduate centre is absolutely full, and the question then remains of where do we go to work? The second thing I would say is the university is actually expanding the number of postgraduate students that study at Bath. They're changing the courses, they're going to increase their intake significantly. And so if you're going to increase the number of postgraduates, then I think that it's only fair that there's an increase in the amount of study space allocated for those very students.
I think currently that Jordan posted recently about furniture arriving tomorrow or day after for library to increase study space over there, so that we have, it's not just for postgraduates, for undergraduates as well. So yes, I think that would be a really good idea.
I would say one of the small things that we could do, yes, we all know the fact that in the new coming up buildings, we have certain areas which are reserved only for PG students, which is pretty good a progress. But putting up all the journals in the library online would free up a lot of space that could be used for maybe an extra projector area for only postgraduate students. But yeah, as we all know that the university has been, the students' union specifically has been very much been able to restrict the number of students, number of undergraduates in the university. They have been able to negotiate that with the VC, but for the postgraduates, the numbers are constantly going to rise. So definitely, as getting back to Adam's, we do need more space for students.
Okay, sport clubs and societies, as well as other student groups, are more often not run by undergraduates. How will you inspire and support new postgraduate students to lead those student groups and also participate in them more generally? Open to all of you.
I think one of the issues to be approached, and the feasibility of this would be something that would have to be discussed between the student union and the university. But undergraduates get their Wednesday afternoons to play in sport, and I think that postgraduates should have a similar option. At the moment, postgraduates can't compete in competitive sports like bucks because they don't get the timetabling or they don't get the time off. And I think that that's something that ought to change. I mean, the benefits that postgraduates' participation in sport would bring are enormous. I mean, not only do you have the sort of the physical and mental well-being issues for postgraduates themselves, but postgraduates are many times they've come through the university system, perhaps playing the same sport, and so they would be able to bring a lot of new skills to the university's sports teams as they stand so far. And so I think that it's in everybody's interest to make sure that postgraduates can actually play sport more, which would have to be an issue of timetabling in particular, and obviously also making sure that postgraduate social sport provision is moved from the likes of Oldfield into the campus itself.
About, since he talked about sports, I'd like to talk about societies, is that I personally actually haven't had time to attend any of the society sessions that I actually signed up for, because I personally do not get that much time. We have too much research to do, we have too much studying to do, we're on campus the whole time. It gets a bit difficult. So for that, I would like to lobby the university to actually cut down the number of hours that we need to put in, because we're only here for a year. To gain an overall experience of our degree and our education, we need to be able to take part in certain activities, extracurriculars, sports, clubs, societies, everything. We need to be able to make the most of the fact that we're paying £18,000 per year to this university, and not just to sit in lectures and listen to them and study. We're here for the overall experience. We're here because Bath is number one for something, and we want to be able to know that.
Well, I would say I've been involved in societies and sports clubs, like being a part of both. Heavily, I've been learning Latin and ballroom. Yeah, but apart from that, I would definitely say it starts from the freshers fair itself. Like just having a different flyer, say, for the postgraduates would actually get them more involved. Because when we talk about freshers fair, or when we talk about the sports induction or the society induction, it is all anchored towards undergraduates. Just having a little mini flyer for undergraduates, or maybe a different time for society's participation. I mean, a different time allotted for sports or societies for the postgraduates would be a huge benefit for the entire experience for the students. So, and yeah, it will always remain a challenge, because the postgraduates are here for a very, very short time, and even the ones who are here for a longer period of time, the PGR students, they have a lot of commitment to their work or the teaching or whatever. But if it's been marketed appropriately towards them, definitely there'll be a boost in the societies, and it plays a very good role in actually eradicating the postgraduate isolation, because it helps them network with people, meet new people. So we need to work upon this.
Okay, what practical steps are you all proposing can be taken to achieve more accommodation for postgraduate students, and is postgraduate only accommodation even a desirable outcome?
Well, for international students specifically, which is a big problem, the postgraduates do not have. I mean, I'm currently not sure about the PG how it goes with the PGR students, but with PGT we are assured and good fair accommodation for PGT courses, all international students. But for students who are from UK and EU, they have a huge problem finding accommodation, because they have to come prior to their course, look for places, since the university does not guarantee them anything. So it would be a very, very good practice in order to have a specific website which the university helps advertise every space open much prior to the UK and EU students who come to study here. So say 4 months in advance, they could actually look upon every picture on the website and could actually make their bookings, and university could facilitate that, or the students' union could facilitate that, or could guarantee that.
Actually, I disagree with what you said about international students being guaranteed accommodation, because I currently live 40 minutes away, and I did apply before the deadline, and I was guaranteed accommodation on campus, but I was not given accommodation on campus. And not just me, I do know about 10 other students that this happened to, and are currently living in the private student accommodation in Twerton, which is 40 minutes away from the campus. And to do that and to make up for that, the only thing the accommodation center is doing is giving them a Wessex free bus pass that has a direct connection to the university. So that is, something I disagree to. And I do believe that would be a really good idea if we had postgraduate specific accommodation centers, because we do have an accommodation center coming up in right next to Holiday Inn in Lower Bristol Road. That would be a really good idea, I would say that.
I think the university needs to work with private housing providers in the Bath area itself, within a reasonable commutable distance to the university, to try and find buildings that could be turned into a sort of halls of accommodation for Bath students in particular. I think it is important to have postgraduate specific halls for similar reasons as my candidate said. You know, when you come to university, it doesn't matter whether you're an international student or whether you're a student from this country. If you're coming to a new university as a postgraduate, you don't know anybody, you're not going to have huge amounts of time to donate to sports clubs and activities. You can do some, but you know, with the amount of time you have, it's quite difficult to find a new social circle and to make new friends. And I think that it would be important for the university to provide housing options where postgraduates can live together in flats and therefore you know, feel more supported in the new environment that they've moved to. I certainly don't think that's unfeasible either. I think if the university is planning on expanding postgraduate student numbers, then certainly postgraduate accommodation is going to need to be a top priority.
Do you believe then that if the university was if you or the university or the Students' Union was offered a choice, we can have new undergraduate accommodation or we can have new postgraduate accommodation, which one would you go for?
I would say that we need new postgraduate accommodation. Since the university is expanding their postgraduate numbers, I think that, you know, that has to be a priority. There's been a freeze on undergraduate numbers for the time being, and so a lot of the freshers who are in halls now will be moving into the city, coming into the future, whereas postgraduates are going to be coming here. International postgraduates are going to need halls provision, and national postgraduates or UK postgraduates will also need somewhere to live. And as I say, you know, if we're bringing in lots more postgraduates, then the university needs to find somewhere for them to live.
I agree.
Being a postgraduate officer, I'll definitely push for postgraduate accommodation. But then, yeah, there's one small aspect that would support it is the fact that most of the postgraduate students here are only for 1 year, so putting a pressure on accommodation would actually hamper their education quite widely. So I would say, yeah, priority given to PGs.
I wouldn't expect any other answer from people wanting to be the first postgraduate officer. Several postgraduates that I talk to all the time, including several of the people that I share an office with, don't know what the SU is. They think it's the bar, they think it's for undergraduates. They're not interested, they're not engaged. You will have a unique opportunity in your first year to change their minds. What will you do to engage them and let them know that the SU is for them?
I would first start with, since we have a Freshers Week induction period, I would first start with actually telling them, having a session assigned to what the SU does. We did have a session like that in the tub for about an hour where we had Watsi talking about what the SU does, the kind of activities we do, how you can be engaged in that. I would say to make it open and compulsory for all students, because we had sessions that were compulsory, we had sessions that were optional, to make it compulsory for all students to attend in their first week, to actually know what this is about, what they do, how they do it, how we would do it, and what needs to be done in order for you to be engaged, the kind of things that we're going to be running. A timetable that probably comes out in the beginning of the year actually shows that the kind of events that you can actually go to or attend or take part in, participate, things like that.
I don't think we actually need anything compulsory to sort of force postgraduates to engage with the student union. I think that it's essentially a process of meeting in the middle. Postgraduates at the moment, they come to the university and they're here for a short period of time, and I think in part they think, well, what can the student union do for me? And having a postgraduate officer, that is a person whose unique role is to reach out to those postgraduates. And so I think that's where whoever is elected into that role has a strong responsibility on their own shoulders to make sure that they let postgraduates know what the student union is there to do. The student union isn't just there to facilitate drinking in the tub, it isn't just there to run activities, but it's also to provide any sort of support to postgraduates, you know, issues of housing, issues of well-being and so forth. And so I think just by properly advertising that and being a real face on the university, the student union can show postgraduates that they're here to help them as well.
I would definitely agree with Adams, because having the postgraduate officer itself does a fair good amount of job of advertising the students' union itself, and having this post and advertising this post since the start of the induction would actually help people think about how the post is, and thinking about the post would actually help them know more about the students' union. So yeah, having compulsorily telling them about what students' union does would not be very helpful for the PGs or for anybody, but just having the postgraduate officer itself will be a very, very good start at that.
This is again where it helps to have postgraduate housing arrangements, the student union can actually reach out and know where to contact postgraduates. At the moment, the postgraduate community at Bath is living in a very dispersed manner, across the whole of sort of the Somerset region, really. And I think that actually, if we were able to bring postgraduates closer to the university and form more of a community through sport, through housing, through activities, then the student union would naturally engage with postgraduates as opposed to it being something forced.
Thank you. I'm going to ask just one more question now because we are coming to the end of our time, but it is related to that. So, as we've said, this is the first postgraduate officer position at Bath. It will belong to one of you. What will you do to make it your own and to put your mark on it? It's one thing to be a link in a chain, it's another to be the very beginning.
I think if I were elected as the postgraduate officer, then I would make sure that first of all I would fulfill my policies, which I chose with the intention of improving the postgraduate experience overall. Well, I think that there are some quite wide-ranging and thorough policies that would ensure that the postgraduate experience here at Bath improved drastically. I would also say that I would engage with the postgraduates personally. I would spend time in the graduate centre and so forth, so that they knew the postgraduate existed and that I was here to help them with any issues they had. Obviously, my door would always be open, and I think that through this way, in the same way as every other SU officer has been able to make a difference, the postgraduate officer could do the same.
What I would do being the postgraduate officers, of course, we do have to fulfill our policies. We do have to keep up to them because that is exactly why we're standing. To begin with, I would personally have a postgraduate association webpage so that all postgraduates do know what it is. Not everyone is on Facebook. We have so many international students from China who are not on Facebook because they're not allowed to have that in their home country. To have a website that is accessible to them, to know what we are doing, to know how we are doing, and how we should communicate with them. That would be one of my strong main points to leave a mark as a postgraduate officer, to target specifically have social events for postgraduate taught and research, not drinking games because not everyone's 21 over here, and social events where they could network with not only rest of the students but also have other social trips to, I don't know, companies, other events that are happening in London. I apparently got the opportunity to go to the NUS Academic Reps Conference in London because I'm the academic rep for my course. I have something specifically for every other student that is there, giving them the opportunity to know what they can do being a postgraduate student over here, and telling them about my role and how amazing it would have been if I do ever get elected, to encourage them to do the exact same for their students.
I would say one thing that I would definitely work upon is, as a priority, is developing the postgraduate officers post so as in order to stay forever. In the sense, saying that I would make it fair enough to be tailored. Tailored it for the postgraduate officers, postgraduate students in the university, because currently there are huge amount of loopholes which actually affect the people who apply for this post, and even with the job role that they have, then it's not currently marketed properly, or maybe it's the PGRs, as you said in the starting, they're not very inclined towards applying for this role. So I would make sure all those loopholes are being filled, and this postgraduate specific post is here to stay.
Thank you very much. Before I invite our candidates to give their summations, I'd just like to remind everyone that there are more questions to candidates going on tomorrow here in 4 West 1.2, also being streamed live into the Student Centre and available to watch afterwards. Activities, education, and the President will also be in question tomorrow. Voting opens tomorrow, that's Tuesday the 1st at 9 AM and closes on Thursday the 3rd at 10 PM. I'd like to, in reverse order, give our candidates 30 seconds to provide a summation.
Well, as the PGA campaign rep and also faculty rep for the School of Management, I've had a great experience working with the SU. I'm very enthusiastic and approachable. Please vote for me, vote for Bharat. Thank you.
As the academic rep for my course, it's been my job to convey concerns to the School of Management, and I'm pretty good at it, that I would say. I'm not saying vote for me. I'm saying you have candidates list, you have manifestos, you have everything that you could possibly need to know what we are working on. Please make your vote count.
I would just like to say that I hope everybody's been able to understand and hear what I've had to say today. Obviously, my manifesto is available online. There's a lot more policies in there that people should take a look at. I'll be out campaigning over the next couple of days, and I hope to speak to a lot more people. And to any postgraduates listening, I would say vote. I mean, you might not see the point, but it's very important, because actually you'll be expanding postgraduate courses for everyone else, and also for undergraduates as well. You know, if you vote for your next postgraduate officer, even if you're a fresher now, in a couple of years, you might want to do a postgrad course, and that vote will have counted.
Thank you very much.
And there you have it. Those were the questions to candidates for the new perspective. Well, candidates for postgraduate officer. That was Adam Kearns, Meenakshi Chabra, and Bharat Bajaj.
So should we go over one or two of the things that they talked about?
Yeah.
Meenakshi, once again, was looking at the anonymous marking, which neither of the two candidates have brought up quite as much as she has.
It's worth mentioning Meenakshi went on the aggressive today. A lot of aggressive comments to particular groups, things that she wants to change. I also would like to say, as a PhD myself, it would be lovely if any of the candidates would have said something positive about us and our teaching commitments. But, of course, they had lots of ideas, lots of things which needed changing, adapting. Perhaps because there wasn't a predecessor, there hasn't been a previous postgraduate officer, they were quite civil amongst themselves. There wasn't a lot of disagreement between each other.
It seemed that all of them were trying to find out, the best way that this position could be filled. Because it hasn't been done before, we have no idea what it should or will look like in the next few years. So this year is almost a finding our feet, seeing how far we can push the lines.
And it's fair to say all of the candidates did well to address the questions that were asked them. However, there was one noticeable omission which none of the candidates mentioned how they would work with the other officers. Particularly when they raised issues with, education, with actually how marking and student evaluations are being done. In terms of how space is going to be used, that's certainly something that will need addressing with activities, with president, with sport, and community.
In fact, only one of the candidates talked about how they were going to try and work with the SU as a whole, and so and the.
It's worth picking up that one of the questions raised was, of course, about Adam's suggestion for more timetabling to benefit postgrads that want to do sports. This is quite an interesting one. Meenakshi said that she wants to lobby for the reduction of hours that postgrads have to do. Adam suggesting that it's in timetabling. Bharat suggesting that it has a lot to do with how the societies actually market themselves to postgraduates. Though this does raise the question of how they would actually affect timetabling in of itself.
It's interesting when they said that they wanted to reduce the number of hours. Actually, surely postgraduates coming to Bath, they'll be coming along to do their research, to do their course.
It does raise a question about what students are expecting, whether it is the full experience, whether it is the course, or whether maybe it's the other people that are potentially paying for their course and what they want the students to get out of their time here as postgraduates. All in all, an absolutely fascinating debate today, and of course the first one for potential postgraduate officers here at the University of Bath. I've been Darius.
I've been Tom.
Thank you very much for watching.